Happy Monday. Welcome back to the Rise to Her podcast. This week we are doing the energetic reading for the last week of April 2026. And in this reading, we are going to talk about what is present for us this week, how we can work with our energy, what is available to us, and how to utilize feminine energetics to support the masculine output of doing, of producing, and of creating the vision. You may notice this week, if you normally watch on YouTube, that this is just a video without my face, and I wanted to be honest about what's going on in my world. For the last year or two, I've had some health issues, and in the last 6 months, they've really reared its head, and I've had a hard time accepting this, and I found myself blaming myself, like, what am I doing to allow this? And that is intellectualizing something that is just quite literally processing through my body. And so I had a flare up today, and I'm recording this from my couch underneath my blanket, with my cozy pillow. I'm traveling tomorrow, so I really just needed to rest up and make sure that I take care of this human form. And I want to remind you to do the same, that taking care of your human form may require you to do things a little differently, and have so much freaking compassion for yourself, because we need you. We need your vision. We need you to feel good, and that requires us to pivot, to rest, and to ask for help when needed. I was on a session with a client today, and I literally had to end the session because I was about to get sick. And that was really embarrassing for me, but I was received. I was honored in that, and I took care of what I needed to take care of. All right, so let's get into this week's reading for the last week of April 2026, and we're doing this reading starting on April 27th. We are wrapping up April, guys. April is coming to a close. I don't understand how we're already 4 months into the year, but we are. And this is the last reading in the month. And I wanted to remind you that I pull these cards at the beginning of the month, and I'm not sitting here watching what's happening in the sky or what's happening around us and choosing a card to match it. I pull the cards, I do the reading, and then we move through the month together. And so every single time the energy just confirms itself. And as I was writing the script for this week, I have my voice recording where I do the intuitive reading from the card, and I pair it with other things that I want to bring to light. This week made no exception. We have a full moon in Scorpio. We are entering into Beltane. And Beltane is one of the 8 festivals that are celebrated on the wheel of the year, the neo-pagan rituals. And Beltane is May 1st, and it is a fire festival. It is about fertility, a life in full bloom, the marking of the beginning of summer. And it's one of the things that we celebrate and learn about when we're inside of Rooted, which is my seasonal living and ancient wisdom membership, where I teach entrepreneurs, leaders, and creatives how to tap back into the natural cycles of the universe and of connecting with Mama Earth, Pachamama, so that we can learn from this beautiful 3D demonstration of how to use the energy, where we learn non-attachment, where we learn energetic mastery. So Beltane is happening this Friday, and the card for this week is the Medallion. I laughed when I saw how perfectly it all stacked together when I was creating this script, because this is a moment of feminine energetics. And I want you to hear what that means in the context of the work we do here, because this word feminine is not about gender. This is simply energy. The feminine is the creative current that lives inside of our structures that we've built. It is the flow. It is our intuition. It is the cycle, the feeling. And my work is about helping you hold your masculine structure, so your vision, your leadership, your output, without burning out. And what burns people out is running the masculine without feeding the feminine current underneath it. So this week is an invitation to open that flow. Let's get into it. Okay, before I read the card, I want you to understand what energy we are sitting inside of right now, because I think it's going to change how you receive the full picture of the energetic current. Like I said in the intro, we have a full moon in Scorpio this week, and full moons are always about release. They are the peak of the lunar cycle. They are a moment of maximum illumination, right? So shining the light on it, really highlighting things. And it's going to highlight things that are ready to be let go. But Scorpio energy is really deep and specific and intense. So this is not going to be a gentle, airy release. Scorpio rules transformation. It rules death and rebirth, the things that we're holding beneath the surface that we're hiding. Last week we talked about the shadow. So again, the energy is here to support shining a light on things. See how we had the shadow before we had this full moon, this energy of fiery release? And it's also going to illuminate our attachments, our fears around security, our relationship with power and control. And the full moon is asking you to look at where you are gripping, holding tight, saying, this is mine, it must work. Where are you sensing that your safety is tied to something external, a possession, a structure, a way of doing things that really isn't holding you in this next phase of life? And thank God, this is about releasing things that are keeping you stuck from embodying your fullest potential. And the axis Scorpio activates is the Scorpio Taurus. Scorpio is the emotional depths, the transformation, releasing what we're unable to take with us in this next phase. And Taurus is the physical world, the material security, the comfort, what we own, what we build. And this full moon is sitting directly on that axis. And so it's asking you to find the balance between emotional security and material security. Are you holding on to things, objects, structures, traditions because they genuinely ground you and they're supportive of who you are in your human form? Or is it time to let go? You're only holding on to them because letting go feels maybe like you're losing a version of yourself or losing a version of security. And that is the medicine of this full moon. And it is the exact medicine of the medallion that we are going to work with this card. But I do want to layer in Beltane that's coming up. I am Celtic by lineage, Scottish. My family came here from the coastal areas of Scotland. So I feel deeply connected to this, and this is specifically relating to the northern hemisphere of connecting with the earth. And it's, again, what I teach inside of Rooted. And so Beltane is the ancient Celtic fire festival, May 1st, and it sits halfway between the spring equinox and the summer solstice. It's one of the 4 great fire festivals of the old world. And what happened at Beltane is that communities would light a massive communal bonfire, and then every household would take a flame from that fire back to their own hearth. So this is lighting the community fire together and then carrying that light home. And the through line here is that your flame, your energy, your support comes from the collective. And in a individualistic society, in a society that says you must prove, you must do it all yourself, or you are going to lose. We see other people, especially in entrepreneurship or leaders, as threats. This is a reminder to root back into community. You are not meant to generate your light in isolation. And Beltane is also really deeply tied to fertility. And I want you to hear that word in an expansive nature. As someone who does not want children, I don't want you to remember that fertility means things to different people. So it could be fertility of the land, but it is also of ideas, of visions, of products, of projects, and creative energy. So this is the moment in the seasonal wheel where what was seated in the dark, and if you were inside of Rooted, we did the shadow work portal. We worked with the energy when we were entering into spring, when we were starting to notice what we have been planting. So this is the moment where what we seeded in the dark of winter has broken ground. It's finally coming around and above the surface, and it's ready to be tended, to be able to be given the conditions to fully live. And the Scorpio full moon and Beltane together are asking you to release what is dead. so that living thing can breathe. I'm going to say that again. Release what is dead so the living thing can breathe. So we are sitting inside of transformation, release, material and emotional security. And all of this is coming into balance, community fire, and creative fertility. And the medallion card that we pulled this week landed right in the middle of all of that beautiful, juicy, flowy, creative energy. And let's talk about the medallion. Even if you are on YouTube, you'll see I'm going to pop up a picture of the medallion card, even though you do not get to see my face. So the medallion card is now on the screen. If you haven't checked us out on YouTube, we would love if you would give Rise to Her podcast a follow. We're excited to build that channel, share with people you know, give it a comment. That helps us share, and a rating. That would be awesome. Okay, so the medallion is a card about objects, about symbols, about things that we hold because they represent something. Things that may have been passed down, maybe they were gifted, inherited, and that could be a physical inheritance or an energetic inheritance. And there are 2 layers to this card, and I'm going to walk you through both of them. Layer 1 is your physical space. So it is quite literally asking you to look in your 3D. Look around you. We're in spring energy. We have a Scorpio full moon, so 2 forces pointing at the same thing, which is release. Your environment holds frequency. The objects in your space are not neutral. I am of the belief that everything in our existence carries an energetic vibration, and we are all in communication at all times. So they carry the energies of where they came from. They carry the energies of who gave them to you and the story you've assigned them every time you look at them. And so Scorpio is asking you to be honest about what you are emotionally attached to and why. And this isn't like throw everything away, but I really want you to ask, is this attachment rooted in genuine love and resonance? Or is it rooted in fear? Like, I must do this or else. Maybe that's fear of forgetting, fear of losing a part of yourself, fear of what it means to let the old version go. And that can be really freaking scary. When I went through my first real spiritual initiation, I started paying attention to what in my house was pulling me backwards, what was pulling me into another reality or energetic framework that really wasn't set up to support the goals and the frequency that I was manifesting and calling in. So that led me to the question of, what do I look at and maybe feel a drop in my body? What gives me a flash of a story that isn't mine to hold anymore? And I had a pair of shoes that an ex had given me, and every time I saw them, I felt this energy, and it wasn't like a devastation energy. It was just like a best way to describe it is a low dragging energy in a way. And so when I became aware of the energetic vibrations and how that shifted me out and into a story that wasn't going to serve this version of me, I sat with them. I thanked them for the story. I cleansed them with smoke. I love using smoke as a ritual to cleanse, and I let them go. Someone else needed those shoes. I cleansed them so that they could have a new story, and that energy wasn't mine to keep carrying. And I'm not telling you to get rid of everything that has a history. I want to be very clear about that. But you know the difference. You know the difference of there are objects that hold a story you're proud of, a reminder of who you become. And then there are objects that hold a frequency that belongs to a version of you that has already moved on. The Scorpio full moon is giving us the clarity to feel that difference right now. This energy is heightened. You can more easily, more quickly tap into it, which means your ability to sense what is really alive in your space and what is just taking up room is going to be sharper than usual. You can use that. So I want you to walk through your space slowly this week. Touch things, hold things, and ask your body, ask your intuition, your higher self, does this still belong here? Does this still belong to me? Your breath likely will be able to tell you. An example could be a slow, really open, yummy breath. Could be yes. But if your breath feels held or slightly constricted, or maybe a subtle looking away, that is your answer. Release what needs to go. Cleanse what you're keeping and what you're releasing, and your space is a part of your energy field. and you cannot pour full creative energy through a field that is cluttered with the past. Okay, so that was layer 1 of the Medallion card, your physical space. Layer 2 is our inherited tradition. The second layer is deeper and can be a bit triggering, and it's where the Beltane energy really is meeting this card. The Medallion is asking you to look at the traditions you are living. Not the ones that we've consciously chosen of like, yes, this is what I want, but the ones we inherited, the ones you've never questioned because they were handed to you well, that's just how life works. And the biggest one I see in my community is around work because I'm working with entrepreneurs, leaders, creatives, people that are working really freaking hard. And if you're like, oh, I'm not someone that really wants to work hard, that's totally cool. But my community, we're committed to building the systems, the structures that are supportive of a more well world. And so we are committed to a ability to work hard and towards that vision. That doesn't mean grinding to the point of exhaustion, but it is saying I'm willing to do the work to get me there. But I want to talk about the 40-hour, 5-day work week because a lot of people do not know its origin. And once you know it, you're like, damn, okay, I want to release that. How can I work differently? How can I work with an energy that's more beneficial and more useful and supportive of my human form? So the 5-day, 40-hour work week was standardized in the early 20th century. So it was most famously pushed into industrial norm by Henry Ford in 1926. Before that, 6-day, 60 to 80-hour work weeks were standard in factories. Ford's move was actually a labor and productivity argument. He found that workers were more productive with rest, and he wanted his workers to have leisure time so that they could spend money on the very cars that they were building. So the Fair Labor Standards Act of 1938 then codified 40 hours as the American standard. And this structure was built around factory workers on assembly lines. It was never designed for creative work. It was never designed for visionary work. This was the Industrial Revolution. This is when we were building a structure and a system to support the new wave of figuring things out. But we have entered into another paradigm. The veil is much thinner. We are connecting with something beyond just what we physically see in our 3D. So this framework is not designed for visionary work. It was designed for physical labor with a repeatable outcome. And most of us, leaders, entrepreneurs, coaches, creatives, are still running our lives inside of this container as if it were a law of nature, as if Monday through Friday, 9 to 5 is how humans were meant to create. It isn't. And the burnout epidemic in high-performing, mission-driven people is largely the result of trying to force natural, cyclical, creative energy into an industrial linear model. You are not a factory. Your best work does not come from fixed number of hours in a fixed number of days. It comes from energy. It comes from alignment. It comes from knowing when you are in a generative phase and when you are in a integrative phase and being able to honor both. And so the Medallion card is asking you, is the way that you work a tradition you've consciously chosen? Or is it something you've inherited, you've put on, you've worn, and you kept wearing it because nobody suggested that you had a choice? Hey there. If your body keeps asking for a different pace than your life allows, if you're moving through the year without clear moments to pause, reflect, or reset, if your intuition keeps whispering and you keep overriding it, Rooted was created for you. Rooted is a seasonal living membership for people who want a more ritualized, spiritually connected way of life, one that actually supports the work and impact they care about. Inside of Rooted, you learn how to live in rhythm with the wheel of the year, when to initiate, when to tend, when to rest, when to release, so your energy stays intact instead of slowly wearing thin. You'll explore your soul contract, work with energetics, and build practices that help your intuition guide your decision, not just inspire them. You get access to workshops like Shadow Work Portal, the Portal of Joy, and the Soul Contract Workshop, along with a growing vault of meditation and somatic practices this community returns to again and again. We gather for live full moon magic calls, coaching sessions with me, and weekly integration prompts to help you stay anchored in the season you're actually in. Rooted is available at a special pricing. You can join for less than $1 a day. Rooted is for the curious, for those who want to stay devoted to their work without losing themselves in it. You can join at www.risetoher.com/rooted, or you'll find the link to join in the show notes. I'll see you inside. And I am here to remind you, my visionaries, baby, you have a choice. And when you remember that, yeah, that's a threat to the systems, the structures, the patriarchy, the capitalism, the white supremacy. Let's be a freaking threat. I do want to talk about the feminine current and where the Beltane fertility energy comes in as a direct gift for the work that you're doing. The feminine energetics that is alive here is not the opposite of your structure. Okay, I want to be very clear there too. It is what flows inside of the structure. So think of your masculine energy as the riverbank. That is the vision, the strategy, the consistency, the discipline. Those banks are necessary. They're going to give you direction. But the water, the creativity, your intuition, the cycle, the feeling of being fully alive in your work, that is the feminine current. And when you only build the banks and forget to let the water flow, you're going to get a dry riverbed. And that is what burnout is. That is what it feels like when you're doing everything right on paper, but you're like, oh my God, this doesn't feel good. And so this week's energy is specifically designed to open that flow. The full moon in Scorpio is releasing what's been blocking it. Your old attachments, your inherited structures, your unconscious traditions around how work is supposed to look. And then Beltane is bringing in the creative fire. So that is the sequence that we're working with. Release first, then receive. But what does receiving look like practically? Again, that's why I use rooted, because a lot of this, we can receive the information, but then to be able to practically apply it to your life and your circumstances, we talk about that in rooted inside of the coaching calls and the WhatsApp group. And we take it deeper inside of the workshop so that you can apply this knowledge. You can join with a 7-day free trial. Links are in the show notes. So what does receiving look like practically? It means getting honest about when you are in genuine creative flow and protecting that time instead of filling it in with admin. A 2-hour window of real creative flow in your peak energy state will outperform an 8-hour day where you grind yourself down by noon. And so I want to be clear here. I'm going to keep saying that a lot this podcast. This is not an excuse to work less. It is an invitation to work in alignment with what your energy is actually available. And even as I say that, and maybe it is an opportunity to work less but get more done, so that you're working in alignment with your energy and actually producing the outcome instead of self-sabotaging, instead of distracting and procrastinating. So I want you to ask yourself, when do you feel the most alive? When does your mind open? When does the work feel like it's moving through you instead of feeling like you're dragging it and forcing it out? That is your feminine current showing you where it's running the strongest. So follow it. Build your structure around it, not over it and through it. I had one of my clients that I've been working with one-on-one for the last 2 years message me about my morning structure and my morning routine. And I love a conscious morning routine. Everyone inside of our community knows that. We have inside of the integration vault a conscious morning ritual where I go through the power of a conscious morning and how to create the structure so that you can flow in the mornings, you can open up your crown, you can receive energetic and intuitive insight. And that is so powerful for leaders, for entrepreneurs, for creatives to start your day that way. But know that if I start my day at 5 a.m., that doesn't mean that's the exact structure for you. And that's what we ended up talking about. She was like, so what time are you getting up and when do you start meditating? And we ended up talking through that. And I said, well, let's not talk about me. Let's talk about what feels best to you. What is your cycle like? Where are you like forcing yourself and finding that, oh, that doesn't feel good? And she said, wow, I've never actually given myself permission to be a late starter because I feel the most creative later at night. And that is the permission slip she was looking for how to be productive in a way that was supportive of her unique energy. She was able to honor her feminine current. And some of you are going to have creative cycles tied to the lunar cycle. And so if that resonates, I want you to lean in, pay attention. And maybe you're like, I don't know if I do. Well, just start paying attention. We're in a full moon, which means energy is high. Emotions are closer to the surface, and your capacity for the big vision is expanded right now. If you are feeling that, I want you to use it. And finally, the Beltane tradition of carrying your flame from the communal fire, that's some real medicine here too, because you are not meant to sustain this alone. It's why we have rooted. The leaders, the entrepreneurs, the creatives that I work with, when they come into our world, they've been trying to generate everything from within themselves, that vision, energy, creative spark, community, accountability, and that is not sustainable. And it was never the design. So whose fire is helping you see your own more clearly right now? This is the week to lean into that, to co-create, to be witness. Reach out to that person that you wanted to do that thing with, or run that retreat with, or teach with. You can allow someone else's aliveness to remind you of yours. And I want to invite you again to Rooted. Learn this beautiful ancient wisdom, this energetic mastery, so that you can take it and show up fully in your work. It's where the feminine is allowed to be held by the masculine, where your work in the masculine is supported by the feminine, and it will absolutely change how you work. It's where science meets spirit, and where you learn how to tap back in with the natural rhythms of the earth. You get started with a 7-day free trial, and that's just $27 a month. A full integration vault with somatic exercises and meditations designed for busy people to create a system of structure that supports their creative energy, and then workshops where we continue to work with energetic mastery, where we rewire our brain to be able to experience more creativity, more pleasure, and be able to release the shadows that are blocking that, hold them with compassion, and working with the will of the year. You can come join us. It's really freaking great. And this week we're having a live moon magic call and a live coaching call. It's a beautiful full week. We will be working with the Beltane energy more fully, more deeply, and the Scorpio energy. You'll get immediate access to join those live calls when you sign up. Okay, so this energy, man, is spicy, but in a really good way. So the medallion under a Scorpio full moon in Beltane week is asking you to do 3 things. 1, release the objects in your physical space that are holding a frequency that you have grown past. And this is not to say that those objects, those things didn't matter to you at one point, or maybe they still hold some type of meaning to you now. But I want us to pay attention that what you surround yourself with is either feeding your field or draining it. So I want you to be honest about which is which. So number 1, release the objects in your physical space that are holding a frequency you've grown past. Number 2, look at the traditions you're unconsciously living inside, especially around work. The 40-hour work week was built for a factory floor. If you are a leader, if you are a creative, a visionary, you inherited a structure that was never designed for what you were doing. And that does not mean the structure is bad. It means your structure needs to be built around your actual creative energy. It is not meant to be built around an industrial model that has nothing to do with how vision is born. We are not in the Industrial Revolution right now. So look at the traditions you're unconsciously living inside. And 3, open to the feminine current in your work. This doesn't mean, oh, you just need to become more softer. You just need to become less. No, I want you to become more alive, more honest about when you're generating from real energy and when you are grinding yourself from this depletion. This is why I'm doing this reading on my couch underneath my blanket with my cozy pillow. My candles are lit. It smells so good in here right now. I'm receiving pleasure while I'm doing this. I made a commitment, and I'm saying, how can I make this as juicy and pleasurable as possible? Because the masculine structure you've built is yours, and the invitation this week is to let the water, the pleasure, the flow, the intuition, let it flow inside of it again. That is the Beltane gift. Release what is dead. Let the fire be communal and carry the flame home. That is your energy for this week. The medallion, objects, traditions, the way you work, the security that you're gripping, and the invitation from a Scorpio full moon to release what isn't yours to carry anymore so that you can step fully into your creative season. I pulled this card at the beginning of April. The sky confirmed it. That's always how it works. I will see you next week. Thank you so much for being here, for listening, reflecting, and rising into more of who you really are. If this episode sparked something inside of you or reminded you you're not alone, then you're exactly where you're meant to be. To keep the conversation going, come hang out with me on Instagram at rise2her. I always love hearing what's resonating for you. And if you're craving a space to explore intuitive, soul-led living with others who get it, our community is growing and you're always welcome. Until next time, trust yourself, honor your rhythm, and keep rising.